Hello. Hi. Welcome. So, I could go for a net. Ooh, Judgment and Ten of Cups. Oh, I like the colors here. One of them is a little more toroidal. The other one is a little more aerodynamic. We also see this giant egg. It's like a stone egg though. And there's something about like trying to incubate something. I mean, it's the Ten of Cups, so like obviously it's not gonna be whatever, but it looks like it's not that it's not enough. Well, it might not be enough. I don't know. Anyway, this isn't about that. I just wanted a card for the thumbnail, and the Judgment card was at the top of the deck. Let's analyze this. Actually, so there is something about timing here because this feels like a stationary fixture, and whenever the moon is in position, then it's like it opens up these sort of, I want to say causeways or something. I think that's the word. Hey Siri, define causeway. Hey Siri, define causeway, please.
Causeway means a raised road or track across low or wet ground.
A raised or low track across low or wet ground. So low or wet ground is it's ground that would be difficult to navigate, difficult for a vehicle to navigate, right? Assuming it's a vehicle, assuming it's like a train or something that operates on a track. It's wet. We have the moon, emotional, but it's these things. And they are raised off of the ground, but they feel like little portals that we only see. Something about this deck speaks heavily, or it's speaking lately, heavily about alignment and opportunity. So maybe, oh, that's a crescent moon too. I think it's waning. I think that's a waning moon. Well, it's reversed. The image is reversed for you. But I think it's a waning moon. Sorry, Angel of the waning moon continues to come out. There's justice here in the scales, also temperance in the scales. There's this solar cross, I think. That's the sun energy, but it's the sun and the stone. And then there's this fire. So it feels like there it is a stone egg, but when the moon is positioned just right, it turns this egg from stone into an organic egg. One that can be incubated, something that can be hatched from this. And it's like these are the two sort of essences or aspects that we put on this. Now, I wish I knew what the thing on the left was. On the right, it's obviously scales. On the left, it may be a mountain. And so, I guess in that way, it's an energy of these obstacles that are very necessary for us to be able to bring something into balance. And then we have this judgment card. Now, the first thing that I noticed in the judgment card was, oh, look, there's a fire on this one too. Look, there's a little fire right there. The first thing I noticed was like this person down here and that person up there. And then like this sort of moon star energy with the sun up there. Because the moons in this deck are a little grayer. The suns are more like whitish yellow. And again, I guess it's just reminding me of that Semyaza energy from the other day, where there's something that we do to attain some sort of alignment down here. And at the same time, it echoes and mirrors above, and it forms some kind of gateway. I don't know. So anyway, I had a dream last night. Oh, and look, now we have the Five of Wands. Okay, let me stop. Excuse me. I really need to get serious about everything I need to get serious about now. It's time to move. Y'all can see all that mess back there. It's fine. It's definitely time to begin moving, and I'm ready. I think a lot of times, or not a lot of times, I think lately I've been waiting for, it's almost like I've been waiting for something to happen to give me permission to do what I want to do. And it's funny because about a month ago, I was like, I need to honor and respect what I desire more, like actually follow up on what I wish. And my friend, he knows this about me now. I'm a very, and if you if you if you have the opportunity or the fortune to know me a little bit more personally, you probably know how, like, for me, so many things, it's like it's moralized, or it's like, like that goes against my ethics, that goes against my morals. Like, I don't want to have to do this to get what I want. I don't want to have to do that to get what I want, because I don't believe in that. I don't believe that I have to compromise my integrity to navigate the world. And I'm not the type of person that is super quick to take opportunity away from somebody else just because I want it. Because I remember my friend was like, when I interviewed for this one position, like, not a lot of people in my position get this job, and I didn't want it, but I went for the interview because it was good practice. And I was like, so that it's a limited opportunity. You know that you didn't want it, but for practice, you took a job, or you took a position, you took a spot that someone who actually wants that could have had. And you're telling me to do the same? Like, I don't know. Like, why would I do that? And it's not that abundance or opportunity works in a way where we can really take from someone else. But in my opinion, it's like, I don't know. It's like, I'm not the type of person to do that. Like, if I don't want it and I know that somebody else might want it, I'm going to leave it for somebody else. I can get practice in an arena that I want. I can get practice talking to the people who offer interview practice, like mock interviews. Like, anyway. Um, and but it's also like, it's this point, I guess, where multiple manifestations are coming. It's not that they're coming necessarily coming into being at the same time, but I guess the track is being set for multiple, I don't want to say iterations, but for different variations of my experience and different variations of going about my professional path. And all of them that I seriously consider, or even remotely consider, run in the direction of something that I desire. And again, like I said, I think yesterday, I've been knowing for a while now that I'm in the position that I'm in right now because there's a choice that I need to make. And I can't make this choice with anyone else in mind. It's a choice that I have to make for me. And so, to ensure that I make the choice for me, and some things have happened. That's not the only reason why things are happening, but in my experience where I'm at now, that's the perspective that I'm taking, that gets me to see, I guess, my life and my future, or the beginning of my future, in the way that I need to see it right now, to be a little bit more intentional with where I go. Right? If you know me, you also know that that's how I think. So it's always that deep for me, apparently. Um, Who was this? Ooh, the Seven of Pentacles. Yeah, this was me. I'm like, I know that I'm like abundant and stuff. Oh, wait, this is a full moon and a crescent moon. And then the sun is at the top with a rainbow. I don't know why I said that like that. This Seven of Pentacles is reminding me of the Six of Pentacles. Also in the Pisces reading, that's why I'm pulling cards. It was the Six of Pentacles. I read it as the Six of Cups. It's fine. But it's like, and then there's the crow on the shoulder. In this one, though, it looks like the crow is just sitting there or standing there. It's not really offering much, but also there's an energy of like either way, it's going to be fine. So, bottom of the deck is the sorcerer, which is the devil. Oh my gosh. Oh, this one has a dragon and a with the Eight of Pentacles under it. This is such an interesting Eight of Pentacles thing. See that mirrored? This thing, and then that thing, and then that above, and then the sun up there. I love how these cards just like mirror and echo each other. I don't often read for myself or pull cards for myself intentionally, but it feels like it actually, I feel like it feels like Spirit is like, it's not that deep. Because this feels like some kind of, because this is the snake from the, not the magician, from the Fool card. There's the Ace of Cups. Here's this dragon. It feels like the dragon is the higher potential of the snake, but it's wrapping itself up around this to the point where it won't be able to get that cup. Now, crosses symbolize sacrifice through the Christ, but before that, crucifixion was a form of punishment, right? But it was also a spectacle. And a lot of punishment was back in the day. Like when they were sending the royals to the guillotine and making a public showing of it, when they used to just drop people from the gallows and when they would drag people around town to make a spectacle out of it. But there's something in here. Hold up. I don't know what this is here. There is this balance between full moon and waning moon. So it's not a space where we or I don't have any knowledge at all because there's a little bit of light in that moon. It's not completely new. And it's balancing the known with the barely known, right? And when I was talking about it came to me that perspective of like I'm in the position that I'm in right now so I can make a choice about my own future. And there are lots of things I would love to do, but in reality, I can only do one of them. So, and the path that's highlighting and illuminating itself to me right now makes a lot of sense. It is the sort, it's not the most fantastic, but it is the best for establishing a foundation and for building a framework. And the one thing that I've discovered along my journey, along my path, is that sometimes things change. And for me personally, it's not to hold so tightly to things that I think I want or manifestations of the past. Because as I live more and more life, my desires change. It's like, oh, like that's really cool. Like I'd rather do that. And then so I start to shift in that way. It does. Like, there is a little bit of a roundabout energy here. And that roundabout energy here, that's sort of that, like, the multiple variations of the experience that I could have, but they're connected. It's like instead of going from A to B to C, I might go from B to A to some other letter to C. Right. But it's not like going backwards and then forwards. It's just like going like that or going like that or going like that. Like either way, all of the points are hit. But what I just noticed is that even though this snake can't reach the cup, he's still drinking the liquid from it. And so, in this regard, there is no real separation between the snake and the dragon. It's like if we were to flatten the snake, it would take the shape of the dragon. Or if we would observe the snake from a different dimension, it would be what it is. And again, it is getting that Ace of Cups juice. And honestly, in my personal life, I feel like the conversations that I have with spirit now are very different. Well, honestly, well, I feel like the conversations I have with spirit, it's pretty much what it's always been for me. I'm not really the type of person who often asks spirit or God or Jesus for like guidance. Like when I'm like really, really, really just like down and out, or when I was really, really, really down and out back in the day, that's when I would break down and I'd be like, Jesus, like you're gonna have to keep me. You're gonna have to keep me for a few days because it's getting a little dark down here. It's getting dark. But also I read into a lot of things. I analyze a lot of things. And that conversation for me, it's like this. It's like the crow is always there. And even if I don't speak to the crow necessarily, like it talks to me. It's in my ear. It's like, and then like you can look at something or go through something, experience something, and then it just comes to you, or it just comes to me, and it's just like, oh, like I'm in this position right now because of this, or I'm here because of that, or this is teaching me this, or I need to really pay attention to that. Or like for example, what was it, last year or the year before? I think it was the year before last year. Speaking of my buddy, when I was with my buddy, like he would always, to me, it would seem that he would always try to get out of something. Like he would call somebody, he'd be like, yeah, well, like, can I do this or can I do that? And now I'm the type of like stick in the mud where it's like, well, if they said be there at 5:30 on the 17th, then you got to be there at 5:30 on the 17th. Like, don't call and ask if you could, like, can you wait until the 25th? Like, be there on the 17th at 5:30 because that's what they said. And I didn't really I didn't really see it because that again, I've gotten a lot better, but I'm very much like the rules are the rules unless the rules are dumb. Like I don't follow rules that are stupid, but if the rules make sense to me, then I follow them. Um, but a few years later, it's like I have to be really proactive in my own life in ways that I guess it doesn't matter if I should have had to be or not. I had to be really proactive. And when I came to that space, I remembered him. And that's when I discovered that, wow, like when you call, like that's why I'm more comfortable calling people now, asking, making my desires and my sort of whatever I got going on known, and then discovering, networking, finding the person who is flexible enough to make it work. I forget why I started talking about that. Mercury just went into Gemini, apparently. And it's squaring my Mercury in Pisces, and I'm already bad, and it's about to go retrograde. Anyway, no excuses. This is just how I am. But my natal Mercury is retrograde in Pisces in the 12th house, so it's not a great Mercury placement in sign, house, or the fact that it's retrograde. But it leads me probably to this, where I'm always sort of seeing the world, everything like my brain operates in metaphor. Everything I look at, everything I experience is like Piscean in nature. That's how I process things. I'm a Pisces sun and my Mercury is in Pisces in the 12th house retrograde. And so a lot of times for me, it's like try to take like the backstage approach or the backstage viewpoint or look at it from a different angle that gives you more of like why this is happening outside of why this is happening in your 3D, like right in front of you, based on everything that you know and believe. And what's interesting is that in both of these cards, the head is facing towards the waning moon, but it isn't necessary. Like in this one, it's facing the cup. Oh my gosh, that's the cup from the Five of Cups. It's the same cup, but this cup has the blockage removed, so no more split Pisces energy. And in this one, he's facing the waning moon, but he's not quite looking at it. And again, with this energy in general, in my own life, I'm approaching the part or that point where things are less safe, things are less secure, things are less. It's not like dangerous. It's like it's less. It's not as established as other paths are. My journey is pretty unconventional, I guess, in some ways, which leads me to some unique-ish challenges. Like there are lots of ways to go about acquiring the circumstances that I have, but my path of getting here with these circumstances isn't necessarily extremely typical. And I'm not a stranger to the atypical, and I'm not really interested in doing things in a typical way, right? I don't like buck the system unnecessarily. I don't want to say unnecessarily. Like, if I don't think that something, I don't rebel just for the sake of rebelling, right? Like I said, I follow the rules unless the rules don't make sense, and then I do my own thing. And right now, I guess it's reaching the point where it's more about the sun than it is the moon. It's more about the energy that we're coming into rather than the energy that we're in, or it's more about the absolute rather than the relative. The moon is relative. That's what we experience down here. It's what works for everybody else. It's what the professors will tell you, the self help books will tell you, whatever will tell you. But the absoluteness of the divine and that energy and frequency of abundance may have you on a path that is new moon, where you can't see the moon at all. But the sun is always there. The sun is never waning or waxing. The sun is just the sun. It's everything that's a reflection of the sun that can be more or less reflective or have more or less totality in the utilization of its surface to reflect light. But the sun is the source, it's all there. Which is why I'm not afraid to take a path that is a little less than this sort of full moon here. And spirit is there. So spirit's always like, girl, like, what are you doing? I'm like, spirit, like, I'm human. I'm a human, and it is my right to make mistakes if I want to. Sometimes I'd be like that. I remember when I was young, I was like, what, 13, 14, 15, maybe. And I would talk to my mom and I'd be like, Mom, like, can I do this? And she'd be like, no. She'd basically be like, that was a mistake. And I'm like, well, I'm a child. Like, I'm not an adult yet. This is the time where I'm allowed to make mistakes. So can I make this mistake, please? And she's like, no. Like, if you know it's a mistake and if I know it's a mistake, then why would I let you do this? Like, it would be different, like, if you thought that this was something that, like, you could do or should do, and you needed to learn from this, but, like, you already know that there's nothing, like, here, hello, girl, like, get it together. I'm like, yeah, but I'm young, and the consequences would be less severe for me. There's the innocent. That's the snake. But also at the same time, I'm very much so the type of person that's like, I don't want to waste time. Like if something isn't going to be here a year from now, like it ain't got to necessarily be forever, but it got to make sense. Like if it don't make sense to me, like if I'm already not that interested, then like why? No. Oh, the Two of Wands. The Innocent and the Two of Wands. There is a sort of raised energy in both of these. But anyway, so that was 26 whole minutes of me just rambling. Oh, I'm going to timestamp that. The ramble, rambling about myself. LOL. So I'll say about 26 minutes. The dream. 26:20. The dream. So I had a dream last night. After I did the Pisces. Oh, 26:20 right there. So I did Virgo, Pisces, Capricorn, and Aquarius. I was gonna do all 12 signs, but after I finished those four, after Pisces, and I was like, this is already like half an hour. We do it in parts. Um, but anyway, for Pisces, in the Ten of Swords, it talked about the past, the present, and the future. And in the spread, it felt like Pisces was caught up in the past. And so being caught up in the past causes Pisces to missee the present, which affects the future, the vision that Pisces develops and that it goes towards. But there needs to, or it's a time to have a little bit more of that behind the scenes, backstage perspective where you can see a little bit more of the lineup or you can see the potential threads that aren't necessarily the brightest, the loudest, or the most obvious. But anyway, I had a dream last night that we had like a time machine. And I remember one of my friends from middle school. She was there. I see her in dreams sometimes. Like I had a dream about like that we had like superpowers or something. Like we were superheroes or something. And she was in that dream. This time travel dream she was in. I don't know why her. Like I don't know what she symbolizes besides someone who I got close to who ended up moving away like everybody growing up. But I remember it was weird because she would always call me like Patrick Woodson. She'd be like, "Hey, Patrick Woodson." Like she would be the only person that would call me by my first and last name. Um, and it kind of grew on me, I guess. But anyway, there was a time machine, and in the beginning of the dream, like we couldn't figure out how to set where it would go. And I was like, well, let's just go. I pressed the go button and we went. Um, the more we used it, the more we figured out how to get to where we wanted. Kind of. It was very explorative, though. It's not like we went to a certain time and space or location. I do remember though there was this one point where like we went to the past and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just chill in the time machine on this one because I ain't trying to go outside and then end up on somebody plantation or something like that. So y'all can go ahead. I'm gonna just chill here. There was another part towards the end where we ended up on the set of Zoe 101. Zoe 101. And I was like, what? In the dream, I was just like, oh, this is cool, I guess. Like we must be in what, the early 2000s or something. Um, and the Cookie was there from Nasty Classified, and he came down the stairs. But also in that part of the dream, there was someone. It was like there were two people who were going to be basically murdered, and we knew that, I guess, because we were from the future. So in the present moment, like it came as a shock and a surprise to everybody. Nobody saw it coming. But after the story breaks in the future, it's like, oh my gosh. And it just like It's like the conditions were just there. It's like you see one person and then you see somebody else and then you see the suspect, prime suspect, and you're like, wait, like this is about the time that something is supposed to happen. And and I remember being like, well, like how can we stop this from happening without altering the course of like history? And then somebody was like, well, it just requires like two, they said sacrifices, but it's like he didn't care who the people were. He just wanted to take two people to, it was some weird reason. I don't remember. It was a dream. And so I think we ended up finding, or did I wake up? I don't know if we ended up, I feel like we ended up finding a way to keep the two people alive and to still get him to do whatever he needed to do on his own path to end up locked up behind bars, I guess, for killing people. I don't know. But the people were still alive. And I remember this other part of the dream where two people, I think they were like older, like middle aged dudes, got on the time machine. Like, I don't think they were with us when we first started. Here's the Two of Swords with that lost Amelia Earhart. Bottom of the deck is the Ace of Swords. The snake goes from like red to green. There's that castle in the sky again. Will I keep this? I mean, I've had time travel dreams before. Like, I remember a long time ago. I'll just put these down. No, I won't. I'll keep shuffling. I should have left the Two of Swords out. Is it still here? I think I already put it away. I think I already put it away. Can I find it? There's the Ten of Swords. Doesn't look like I'm gonna be able to find it. 1 second. I keep seeing this Four of Cups card. There it is. I'll put all the cards that come out. I had a dream a long time ago that there were people from the future who were here to, like, there was a species of bird in a rainforest somewhere that they were here to save. It was like a multi-part dream. That was the first part. And then in the second part of the dream, it was in the same night. I woke up and I went back to sleep. They told me that they were from the future and that companies who, through the operation of their company, whatever natural disaster or um, extinction that occurred because of the way that they run their business, like they would hire this time travel company to go back and to like fix. I guess it's some kind of like PR stunt because like if you're responsible for the complete and total deforestation of the Amazon rainforest, and then because of that, the whole planet turns and shifts towards some way that capitalism had us not caring about because we were so busy focused on the money, and then it's like, well, was the money worth it? No. So okay, like go back and undo this for us, please, type of dream. And I don't know what it was about the birds in the rainforest, but a company had hired them to come back and to save the birds and prevent them from becoming extinct. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that's so cool. And then I woke up and I went back to sleep. And the third part of the dream, oh, that's a whole bunch of cards. That's like 5 cards. Temperance, the Sun, Ace of Wands. Let's do it this way. The Sun, Temperance, the Sun, Ace of Wands, the Master of Secrets, and the Priestess of Dreams. Okay. In the third part, I was like, I was a new recruit and I was going through training. And I remember the name of the device or the name of the whatever. It was like a conundrum or something like that. I remember reading it and I was like, conundrum. Like, it's not a conundrum. Or maybe it's like a continuum conundrum, like a time continuum conundrum, where I guess, again, going back to this dream, it's like where the timeline is changed because something that was supposed to be lost is preserved, but certain events are still maintained. And it's like, well, how are these events maintained if the reason for these, or if one of the key repercussions or consequences or whatever has been changed, but overall the timeline stabilizes itself again, even though it's been changed, like it's all apart. It's the continuum conundrum, the conundrum, or whatever. That's just me trying to piece together why in this dream a long time ago it was called the conundrum. And I remember going through training with another dude and a girl, and we were like this little 3-person squad or whatever. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to like be working with you and be like doing this work that I can really get behind." Yes. And then I woke up before we even did anything. Like I woke up at the end of training, and I was like, "Okay, well, there goes my dream." And then I went back to sleep to try to get the rest of that dream, but I think I had to get up for school, or the part 4 just didn't come. I was upset. But it reminds me of that dream. Um, but yeah, there were 2 people who got on at one point, and I also remember there was one part of the dream where we showed up to a place. I think it was after some kind of like uh well, it was after like 9/11. And for some reason security was like super tight, and that was towards the part where we didn't really know how to control where the time machine would set itself. We just get in and push the button and go somewhere new. And then I step out and I notice like all the police or whatever, and something about the environment just told me that it was like a few years after that had happened. And I was like, oh snap, like get back in the time machine. We're going somewhere else because we can't navigate and operate here, especially like being seen coming out of this strange contraption that just appeared out of the middle of nowhere. um and then, ooh, the Lord of Swords with the Hangman. There's that. Wait, no, those are 2 full moons. Okay, work. But yeah, that's the dream I had last night, and I was like, it's interesting, honestly though, because I remember when I used the Damon Tarot, and one of them came back. I think it was one of the Blackbirds. And it was like, although he has knowledge of the past, the present, and the future, he specializes in like predictions of the future and also communicating with other blackbirds and basically nature, like the forests and the wind and things like that. And then I went to sleep and I had a dream about time travel. I read the card about the past, the present, and the future and the Ten of Swords, and then I go to sleep and I have a dream about time travel. But in that dream, um, it's the Ten of Swords. One second. What does it say? So Triskel is threefold. Well, you can't. Well, there's the card in black and white. Can you see the? There it is. It was for Pisces if you want to go back and watch Pisces. The Triskel acts like a windmill, fostering the powerful shift from one phase to another through upheaval and struggle. Triskel is threefold: past, present, future, thus pointing to the need to seek answers from each and working through problems. So we need to seek information from the past, the present, and the future to come up with the solution that Pisces needed for whatever. Pisces was kind of heavy. I think they were all heavy-ish. None of them were like, "Oh my gosh, this feels amazing." Um, but yeah, and then I had a dream about time travel. But the dream that I had a while ago, it was like I remember there was someone who had escaped their prison, and it was apparently my job to go and bring them back. And ain't no water left. And this person was casting a spell. Like we trapped them in some magical circle thingy on the ground. I was like, "Hey, you're trapped. You ain't going nowhere. Time for you to go back to your cell." And he started casting the spell to go back in time. And to keep him locked in the present where he was trapped, he was like, "Well, I'm just going to go back before you trap me, and then I'm going to trap you," or whatever. I was like, "Oh, no, you don't." And I tried to undo what he was actively doing, but it ended up sending at least me like way back in the past. And I was like, "Okay, well, this didn't work out how I expected it to." But that's fine. I'll just find him and then trap him again. See, yeah, bottom of the deck. With this Four of Cups, I keep seeing this Four of Cups and the Lord of Pentacles. These two cards keep popping up. That's the Five of Cups that has the cup that's the same as whatever that card was. What was that card? What was the card? Don't tell me. Not like you can. They came out together. The Seven of Pentacles. No, it wasn't the Seven of Pentacles. It was the other card. Judgment. Or was it the Seven of Pentacles? I think it was Judgment. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's the same cup from the Five of Cups, but the blockage is removed." And then the Four of Cups and the Lord of Pentacles, because they love coming out. So the Lord, I'm going to put these under each, because I got 3 different piles that came out. And I guess I'm going to read only the top card, because if I read every card, that would be a lot. And I'm not doing that. Something in me wants to do it, but I'm not. I'm not doing it. I need to end this so I can start, so I can finish my resume finally. But again, like that's been my, even since like last year. It's like I experience setback in some area, and then through life, I'll be exposed to a lot of things, and I'm like, wow, I really want that. Like, I want that. I want to be able to do that. Like, that would be so cool. Like, I want that to be my experience. Like, that's the type of experience that I want to have. Like, I kind of do want a traditional 9 to 5. I do. I want a traditional 9 to 5. I want it to be high impact in the pharmaceutical area. I don't really like how like healthcare and medicine works in America. That's why I was like, well, in the UK, like maybe it would be different. Like in a country where universal healthcare is a thing, maybe it wouldn't be so, like maybe the pharmaceutical industry in those places wouldn't be so like money focused. It'd be a little bit more about the people and less about like, well, if they need it to survive, then they'll pay any price. I'm sorry. It just like I'm like, oh my gosh. Like that's not, and I know that like there have to be people who work there because they also want to make a difference. But it's also a company, and when you're a company, you gotta make money, and R&D isn't cheap, and blah blah blah, whatever. But I don't believe in capitalizing on someone's pain. Like, ew, that's like that money to me. It's like, why would I? No, no, thank you. Um. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, there are like so many things that I experience, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's cool. Like, I really want to do that. Like, my friend, she was working remotely and traveling the world. And I was like, what? Like, I want to do that. I want to have the ability to like work remote and travel. And then, 2020 happened and a lot of people were working remotely. And so now that's a thing that's a lot more feasible now in a lot more positions than it was before everything fell apart. To come back together in a new way. And lately, like my friend, he works for a company that's international and he's going to be moving to the UK. And so he did some networking within his company. He ended up Like, again, he's the friend who like would call people and who would ask questions and get what he wants. And then I learned to do the same. And I'm seeing him network, and now he's got like he ended up getting pretty high up the chain, and now he's made connections and he's continuing to make connections to sort of solidify his place. And I'm like, well, I want to work for a company that has multiple locations, because maybe I want to do like 2 years in France or 2 years in Japan, or like go somewhere else for a little bit and work. Also, like I once, before that even happened, I was looking at different companies and I was looking at different positions. I'm like, this position is really cool. Like, I would like this, I would like that. But then a lot of them would be like, this is a position that's really, it's an introductory position to the company for those who kind of sort of want to be in the company long term. And for the specific companies or for the specific fields that they were for, I was like, well, this isn't a company that I really want to be in long term. And can I get like some experience anywhere? Like, yes. Would it be relevant and applicable? Yes. But if I could start, I don't know if it's like the Taurus in me or whatever, but I'm kind of the same way in a lot of areas. Like I said, it's like if something doesn't make sense a year from now, I'm not too motivated to keep trying. Like I'm not too keen to invest my energy or my time in something that's not going to be long standing. I got two Taurus placements and two Capricorn placements. Taurus in my first house, Capricorn in my ninth and 10th houses. Maybe that's more ninth house Capricorn that then bleeds into 10th house Capricorn, because it's like philosophically, like I have to be able to see it. Like on the grand scale of my life and how my life can change, like I got to see something that sort of fits the fluidity and flexibility of like my projected growth or whatever. Now, also, I think that in excess can be a little bit of my undoing, potentially. But also, again, like I don't feel like I have to compromise my integrity to get what I want or to go where I want. So other people don't care about certain things, and that's fine. That's them. But I do, and I don't have to sacrifice that. Anyway, so I was already like wanting to look at companies that I could work at longer term, like more than a year or 2 years to get some experience for me to go somewhere else. And if I have to start in a position that is less than sort of what I am really shooting for, then that's fine. As long as it's still within like the same realm and domain. Because, once like I'm a quick learner, I'm pretty good at networking. I'm decent. I'm pretty good at people when I want to be. I feel like for me, I feel like that like Pisces sun, Taurus moon, I really feel that change in dynamic sometimes. Where sometimes I'm like super like, oh my gosh, like hey, like I hope you're doing well and blah blah blah. Other times I'm like, hey. Or like I'll be a little blunt, and in my mind it's just like, well, if you ask a question, boom, like there's an answer. But it can come off a little like bluntly or a little cold depending on like where my focus is. I'm like, wow. At first I noticed it in my grandma because she's a Taurus. And then I started noticing it more in me. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. That's interesting. It's just interesting to see these things about self. Not to feel some type of way, but just to see it, to notice it. Anyway, ramble. I'm still rambling. It's fine. It's my channel. It's my video. It's been like 50 minutes. I'm assuming that if you don't like it, you would have clicked off by now. And if not, like, what are you doing? Like, go do something that you want to do. Anyway, so I was already leaning towards like something that I want to do longer term. Also, there are other things at play with where I want to position myself, where I've been feeling led to position myself again through it's like the string of synchronicities. that happen over a period of time. And then like other things come along. And like just with the UK, and I talked about it yesterday when I was like because I was super emotional Sunday because that was the last full day I had with my buddy, and he's going to be moving, and it brought up some feelings from childhood, where it's like every time I would get close to somebody, they would move away. And for that reason, and a lot of other reasons that just so happened to coincide with me isolating myself and not getting close to anybody, I made the choice to isolate myself and not get close to anybody. Well, then I started to thaw. I started to warm up. And here's my somehow best friend, my very unlikely friend. If you would see our friendship in its totality, like we met when I was probably in the darkest space in my life. And then I started getting better, and then I came into my own light and everything that you see today. And that shifted our dynamic. And last time I was there, we had our arguments, but it wasn't anything like irreconcilable. Like in the past, once I got mad, I would just hold on to that anger. And I'd be like, you know what? Like, no, don't talk to me right now. I'm still mad at you. And this time it was like, well, mad for why? Like, just enjoy the time. Like, let it go. It's not that serious. But anyway, he was like, oh, well, I'm stressed. I'm stressed because I have all these interviews and because I'm doing all this networking. And I'm stressed because, I got to leave now and I got to get rid of my stuff and I got to find somewhere to go and I got to do this and I got to do that. And I'm stressed. So I'm going to be a butthole towards you. And I'm like, hello? Like, why? Just because you're stressed? No. But also, and maybe it's something I can't really say if it's because he's grown or if I've grown. In all honesty, we've both grown. But it's like, I would reach that point of like being really upset because he just like pokes and pokes and pokes and pokes and pokes. And then like I respond because I'm not going to let you beat up on me. And I'm like, oh, well, let me tell you about you then. Hello. And then he'd be like, oh, well, I'm stressed. And like, this is what I was talking about. This is what I meant. And this is how it makes me feel. And so because of the stress, there were certain things that I guess it wasn't things that I was doing intentionally. It was like things that would trigger him. Like, so I stopped eating breakfast just coincidentally. And so I was eating bigger lunches, and he was like, so I would eat a little bit more than what he had thought. Cause he's very like, well, this is what I planned out. I guess we're the same in that aspect. And I never noticed it until right now. Cause like, if I go in with a plan and like my expectation is to adhere to that plan. And if there's any deviations, especially when we first met, I would get really upset. And then he's sort of the same way, but apparently when it comes to food, he's just like worse than me. And I got two Taurus placements and a Cancerian placement. Like my Mars in Cancer, my Moon in Taurus. It's like I like food too. Like hello, like no, but he was like, like when we cook, I proportion everything out so that we're both like full or that we're both satisfied, and it makes me feel like a bad host when you're still hungry. And I was like, well, like, and again, like that's not something that I could have done anything about. Like that's an internal thing to him. And then with the extra stress of all of the networking and the moving and the things that he's going through right now, it just really, I guess, played on that in a way that he came at me in a way that was completely not what he thought it was. Because I'm like, we're doing just as much when we do this together. In fact, I'm doing even more because I'm the one who's doing all of the dishes afterwards. So if we're team cooking and I'm doing all the dishes and you just sit down and eat, but I mean, he's the one going to work to get the groceries. So my thing was like, this is a team thing. He was like, I do all of it. I did all of this cooking and I'm a blah, 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 blah. And apparently that's one of the ways to get me upset pretty quickly is to invalidate my efforts because oh Tori and Patrick, oh Pisces and Patrick, oh lazy procrastinating Patrick was like, I'll put in the time, energy, and effort, and you're gonna invalidate that? Try again. But then after that, like that's when he would tell me. And then there was another instance. It only happened like twice. And he was like, "Oh, like, like this is how I'm feeling and whatever." And I'm just like, "Well, why couldn't you just say that? Like, why couldn't you just be like, hey, like, this is what's going on. This is why I'm feeling this way. Like, because of these situations and circumstances, it's making me feel like this. It's making me feel like that." Then it's like we could just have a conversation about it. It can be resolved, and we don't have to raise our voices, or not really raise our voices. We don't have to get like just really. Things can be cool. And again, I don't know if it's because I just gave up. I was like, you know what? Continuing to be angry right now isn't worth it. And then he would be like, this and this and this and blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh well, why didn't you just tell me? Easier fix. Um, I don't know. I'm discovering a lot right now, and the relationship with him, the friendship with him, honestly, is one of the most challenging relationships that I continue to invest time, energy, effort, and love into. But it's also become one of the most rewarding. Maybe because it requires so much. Maybe because I like who I am when I can like put my anger aside and when I can be the better version of myself. And there have been quite a few people who've come into my life in the past few years who've encouraged me to consistently be a better version of myself to the point where it comes like it goes from second nature more and more and more to like my primary nature. But that being my primary nature is the truth of who I am before all of the defensiveness and everything else came in and twisted stuff, right? And maybe that was also the snake that was on the cross, coiled around and drinking the water, becoming more and more of myself through these challenging situations and through the choice to be the better version of myself or to allow things to let things go. Like I'm the type of person that could really, really, really hold on to stuff. Like I would carry grudges so long that I forgot why I was mad or upset in the first place, but knowing that I was mad or upset was enough to keep me mad or upset instead of me being like, I don't even remember what this was about. And obviously, if I forgot, it wasn't that important. Or it'd be better to just let it go and to move on. Like it's not that serious. Like I said, I've learned a lot. Pluto retrograde, these full moons, new moons, they're teaching me a lot, but in ways that they're not necessarily without challenge. But they're also a lot gentler because I don't fight as much. I choose to let it go. I choose to be lighter, I guess. I choose to take a context of like, this is somebody that I care about, someone who's not going to be here for too long. And even if he was still here, it's like this misunderstanding, this happening in the moment isn't enough for me to like throw away the whole day. And I used to do that. Like I would just be mad like all day. And it's like, why? At a certain point, it's like now I'm just mad. And for why? I don't know. A lot of stuff is happening, has been happening in very gentle and eye-opening and heart-opening ways. Um, yeah, so back to all of these cards that came out when I was talking about the dream. The Two of Swords. Within the great mound is the vehicle of expectations, ready for the victorious flight. The problem is the conflict of indecision, not knowing which path lies ahead. There is confusion in making a choice, whether to leave the old, familiar location or to move ahead, whether to hold on to the accustomed or to courageously venture into the unknown. The seeker is pulled between the desire to stay in the security of the old or to move into the mystery of the new. Each direction has its seductions, yet only one can be chosen, and thus the plane, poised for takeoff, is stuck while the seeker tries to find a happy decision. The vehicle of indecision is connected with the wisdom of the depths through the faculty of dream. There is help from the dream, voices that rise to the consciousness through the great body of the sea creature, intuition. To successfully assess the situation and reach a conclusion, the seeker must carry the wisdom from dream upwards, traversing the steps from dream towards waking consciousness, manifesting the dream's message in light of the rising sun. Reason. It is a long journey to see clearly which direction is best, and the seeker will stay in limbo if clarity is not reached. To the left is the cherished dream waiting to manifest, yet it is held in the bubble of unknowing. To set it free, intellectual and intuitive processes must work towards manifesting the solution. So, girl, I guess this is a self read, and I shouldn't be surprised. Because I was sort of talking about that indecision and like how like there are these multiple paths and there are these multiple things that I want, but what I want most can make room for all of it. Also, it's like for where I want to be, for like my prime position, it requires more of a foundation to be built. It requires more action. I don't have the foundation right now to do what I want to be doing. And so right now I'll start building the foundation. But then I'm like, well, what kind of foundation do I want? Like, how do I want this foundation to be built? Because at the end of the day, the foundation kind of supports our lens to the building that's on top of it. That's why it's like if I build a solid, versatile foundation, then I can do almost anything I want with it up top. But if I build the foundation smaller, then it's going to force me into like this skyscrapery shape because I didn't expand the foundation out enough to accommodate some more lateral expansion. This is me. Welcome to my brain. And then the Five of Cups is here. This is feeling like Spanish. Like just make a choice, make a decision. Like, girl, hello, just make one. All paths lead to Rome. Like you're not, if you are consciously connected, if you listen to spirit, if you're open to being guided, there's no way, even if you're not, in a lot of ways, there's no way to make a misstep because life can accommodate. And it can get you back to where you're supposed to go or where you want to go or where you're going. It's only when we continuously resist that we never really quite head in the direction that we want to. Right? Because the GPS will continue to reroute you. You can make whatever twists and turns and stops you want, and the GPS will reroute you to your destination. But if you always defy the GPS, you're probably not going to get there. Because the closer you get to something, the less paths there are, right? Because eventually you're going to reach the point where the GPS tells you to stop. You've reached your destination, or your destination is on the left, and you can keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going and never stop because the GPS is like, girl, you're there. You've been circling around it for like 25 lifetimes. Like, what are you doing? But, you have free will and free choice, and we respect that. So we will just continue to reroute, rerouting. All the while, sometimes we pray for a solution. And it's like, okay, well, if you want a solution, listen to the GPS. There is this red and blue. So the man, it's looking like the man is wearing a blue top and a red plain, but in the Five of Cups, he's red top and blue pants. You see that? You see him in there? Look like a little blue top. So that is, I can't tell if these are reds or oranges, but it's some kind of like third eye throat and then root sacral energy. There's a need for communication here. There's a need to make intentions known. And I'm not the best. Like I said, like I'm not the best with, I've said it a few times, like asking spirit or my team for the things that I need. I'm more like, I'll go through life and I'll figure it out. I'll listen and I'll feel around and I'll figure it out, and then I'll build this internal foundation, and things will go out from there. And again, like there have been so many things that I want, and the experience that I want is very clear to me, at least as of now. Until it adds or changes or modifies or whatever. Um, that train of thought just took a turn. But yeah, in general, I'm not positioned right. Like I want to work remotely. I want to have high impact, and there's like a certain skill set or a knowledge base that I need to build before I can like not be supervised, right? Makes sense. Or before I can like find the space where I can do all of that. Cuz I want to work, I want to travel, I want to help people. I like the idea of the 9 to 5. Like cubicle jobs speak to me. I don't know if it's my Neptune and Capricorn or what. But like if I could have a little cubicle with my little like pull away calendar and like pictures of my family and stuff, and like go talk to coworkers at the water cooler and like, hey, how's your weekend? How's Bobby and Sally doing? Right? How was the game? Like that's not something that I dislike. Like I love like office supplies. Like I like getting them. I don't know. It's just it works for me. I'm I'm not the type of person that like I don't feel like I have to be my own boss. I don't really have any interest in that. I did discover that I do have an entrepreneurial spirit that I really like. Like I like something that I can get behind and then like market or sell or talk about or develop. Like that I really really liked. Um and now the train of thought is just gone. And I think for me, it's like trying to find something that puts a lot of things together and then starting somewhere. Also, in this card, it's like there's this little stream, and it's like we're praying for more, but it feels like the divine is saying, like, for right now, for where you are now, this is enough. And as your fields become more lush, as your territory expands, as you plant more, then you'll go from like this little trickling stream to a babbling brook to, a mighty river or an ocean or whatever you need to sort of satisfy or to nurture that which you have to take care of. This will accommodate. And again, like this card talked about integrating your intuition and your intellect, and it feels like that's coming through in this Five of Cups. It feels like Spirit trying to point out where you already have enough. And then everything that comes out of the top of this cup, it's potential. It's like the potential is already there. When you're in the situation, when you're in the circumstance, the resource will be made available. Do what you can now with what you have. Now I'm going to read Temperance, moving on to the second one. I'm going to be on here forever. 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 Ooh, this is a two-pager. This Temperance almost reminds me of the Justice card in the Pride Tarot. Almost. Temperance stands tending the physical with the spade to loosen the hardened ground, which indicates a dry, dogmatic approach to life that impedes the fertility of growth. She seeks to awaken the mind to receive sound, balanced information, and urges the seeker to accept the challenge to accomplish what is necessary to move ahead. Temperance reminds one to be prepared, to gently nurture and fully examine all paths, all grounds, before acting. She encourages moderation and restraint, along with careful consideration, and urges patience and the constant care of that which needs time to grow and to manifest. She invites the seeker to draw upon creativity to move ahead and reach full growth. Temperance influences all aspects of existence, seeking to balance the intellect with the intuitive. There's the intellect with the intuitive again. To harmonize the emotional and physical by drawing on inner strength. Standing between crescent moon and blazing sun, she honors both the wisdom of the dream and the unconscious, as well as the analytical rational view of a situation. She knows the value of each and urges the seeker to work with both prior to moving ahead. Likewise, she remembers to attune her planting and her harvesting according to the cycles of nature, reminding us of the need for appropriate and careful timing, as cyclic attunement makes a huge difference in the success of a project. The season for planting differs vastly from the season for picking. She teaches that most important is the season for dormancy, for the care and attention given to the dormant ground in which the seed rests has a huge impact on the harvest. She warns against hasty decision and greed, which would have one take shortcuts in nurturing one's creative garden. She is all about balance, about knowing when and how to act, when to nurture and care for the dreams and intentions, when to make manifest the plan. Temperance is about the purity of intention, putting the good of all at the beginning and unfolding of all actions. There is an abiding reverence for the land and all that dwell upon it, for the process of production and for the health care of each. She warns against the abuses of commercialism, where personal and financial gain are put before ethics and morality. Is this not? Is this not everything that I would say? We're always on path, girl. We're always where we need to be. Yes. Okay. She nurtures each creative act and demands the same of each of us. Moderation and respect guide her hand. Temperance warns that while the rose garden appears beautiful, it demands effort not only in the planting but in the maintenance. Insects wait to attack, yet remain unseen forces. Not all solutions are acceptable. Neither the use of dangerous chemicals in caring for the land, unhealthy additives in food, nor false advertising in production meets her high ethical standards. She counsels against the hidden addictions that are often sought as solutions to difficulties, and urges one to beware of what lies hidden in beautiful offers. The rose looks and smells fragrant, yet the thorns can pierce deeply. Temperance advises rising in dream, pouring from the jug of unconscious to aid one in moving ahead. Temporary relief and quick solutions, addictions and falsehoods only lead to the generation of larger, more complex problems which compound the original issues. I love this. So again, I feel like for me personally, it's this energy of like basically being where like I'm taking all of the things into account, all of the things into consideration that I'm supposed to. For me, like that's how I operate. And like I said, I don't believe I have to compromise that. The card basically agreed. Now, I will say that it is for me also to learn how to act and to learn to move. And a lot of times the procrastinator in me would act and move when I had to. One of the things that I'm still learning is to be more proactive instead of reactive and responding. And again, at the same time, it's like there's a certain amount of time that was allotted for me to explore. There was a certain amount of time that was allotted for me to catch up. There was a certain amount of time that was allotted for me to witness how my experience changed because of the cataract surgery, among a few things. And so it's not to put myself under any pressure. And I don't really do it to myself. And I don't fully allow other people to do it to me. But there are times when I notice that it still has a little bit of a like an effect because then I'm like, oh well, I gotta look, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, and there are things that I need to take care of, yes, and they will be taken care of. But I guess I already said it. It's feeling like it's time to act now. I've done all of the ruminating and acquisition that I need. Now it's time to begin sort of putting the blocks together. And the magician is here, the master of secrets. It's time to begin putting it together in a way that suits the now and that suits what I want now. And again, with that past, present, and future energy of the Ten of Swords, it's like these are the things that I'm taking from the past that I'm contextualizing and recontextualizing in the present to handle the present situations and circumstances, but also to leave room for the future. And so, with the past and the future in mind being the tools on the table, I can, and with cooperation from the divine, of course, I can kind of sort of see where all of these different sort of paths are connecting. It's like playing the witness. I've been playing the witness, and it's like sometimes you see this half of the puzzle and you see that half of the puzzle, and then the in between, you kind of sort of got to figure out like how would I have to navigate to make these two ends meet. Ouch! Ooh, I've been sitting on my foot. Reading that card makes me want to pull the Tao Oracle. Ow! Oh goodness! Oh goodness! I'm not gonna pull for all of them, but I will pull one here now. I have my hopefully final follow-up appointment later today. Ooh, 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 man! I sat on my foot in a way that it's not comfortable, but it's fine. Let's see what it is. Let me get one of these Tao Oracle cards. Let's see what the I Ching got to say. And the Four of Cups is at the bottom here. The Four of Cups is the fates. It's Lachesis, Clotho, and Atropos, and it talked about how there are knots that are woven in with the smooth string, and when you reach the end of one, then like another bit will be measured, and then you move forward. And with the divine timing and the Temperance card, and with everything I was talking about with the GPS, it's like if we continue to avoid that knot, It's like the knot signifies when we need more string or when the next sort of chapter begins. And if we are so afraid of a tower or a challenge, or if we're so resistant to healing or to moving forward or forgiving or whatever, then it's like we never reach what lies beyond that knot in the rope. And again, it's not that there aren't things to do wherever you are in life, because there are. But we can also move forward and we can also progress. I'll take this one, not this one right here. You see this first one that's kind of sort of sticking out a little bit? That's the one I want. You're the one that I want? Oh, progress, 35. As I was talking about that. Hey, that's how we make progress. And modesty. 15 is at the bottom. I feel like modesty is a little bit of a temperance in energy. Moderation, humility, keep it simple, lack of pretension, self respect, sincerity, and respectability. Yes, girl. Like that temperance energy. What was I saying? What was I talking about? What was I talking about? The knots in the rope with that Four of Cups. Um, I feel like it reminded me of something that I didn't talk about yesterday. It came back to my mind and then I lost it. Yarny. I played Unravel. It was on sale, Unravel and Unravel 2 for $5. And I played the second one with my friend. And in that one you're tied to each other, and so you're a lot more mobile. And the first one though, you unravel the string from the beginning. And there are yeah. There are points where you run at the end of your rope. And then you have to find out, okay, well, where's the next bundle of yarn so I can, tie that on and continue moving forward. And it reminds me of this energy. We have to find the point where the next sort of bit of yarn lies to continue moving forward. Ends are beginnings and beginnings are ends, with that infinity down there. I don't remember her name. The mother of the faiths. So progress. Progress is advancement, gaining recognition, appreciation, achievements, acceleration, steady gains, and increased clarity. I'm going to read that here. What's this? Oh, 34. Great power. So close. So close. That's 36. Hello, how long is progress? Is progress only 2 pages? So, there is an old saying: in the bright light of day, all things become known. Circumstances are accelerating toward that illuminated zenith now. The outlook is brighter, and all signs point toward an increasingly more rapid progression of events. It is also true that the brightening light of day represents expanded awareness that is revelatory and exposing. It increases the likelihood of careful scrutiny of our actions and attitudes in many dimensions of life. Anything that once was unknown, unclear, or undercover may now be brought to light. If what has been developing is greater maturity and an increasing spirit of harmony, then there will be no need for concern or guilt in the exposure. When we are sincere and resolute in our approach to life, taking no one for granted, then finding oneself in the spotlight is not a cause for alarm. Rather, you can observe life more keenly, and even sudden turns of events are appreciated as part of the natural progression of things and are accepted as such. If, on the other hand, you have been working behind the scenes to embellish your own reputation or enhance your position at the expense of others, all the manipulations that have gone into such efforts are, under the present circumstances, likely to be exposed. The ego enjoys letting it be known how hard it has worked to finally achieve a much desired and probably long overdue moment of recognition. And once it has been sated by the applause, it is often all too ready to start slacking off. An irresponsible or self involved attitude is driven primarily by the need to impress others with achievements. This is a kind of narcissistic condition that only ever feels okay when others acknowledge its specialness. By indulging the tendency, by indulging this tendency, oh, but, okay, let me read. But indulging this tendency has the unfortunate side effect of diminishing what could otherwise have been a peak moment of opportunity, simply because you're so involved in patting your own back that you lose your sense of timing. Recognize the timeliness of things. Recognizing the timeliness of things requires a single pointed attentiveness in order to discern the subtle signs of change that support your next move. Working in accordance with the time will sharpen your attention and your ability to sidestep the inconsequential. It is wiser to put your energy into increased alertness as soon as the cycle begins to peak. Otherwise, there is a danger that when the opportunity for progress is at its height, you will be snoozing under a shady tree, lulled to sleep by the assumption that you've already done enough and now it's time for a nap. Being alert now to the subtle nuances of what is happening around you will help you to stay self contained and energetically supported by the steadily increasing wave of progress that characterizes this time. The positive effects of your endeavors will be naturally and effortlessly multiplied for one and all. Taking care of the business at hand helps you to keep your feet on the ground in spite of your being in the limelight. This is not to say that the sweetness of the moment should not be savored. There is no full stop in the journey of life. Rather, the journey itself is the goal. Oh, gosh. Oh, goodness. I'm not going to read this part. Yeah, I feel like all the other ones are longer. I guess they're not longer. Yeah, it's the same. It's the same as all the other ones. So that was progress. And I feel like personally, since the start of my journey, there could have been a lot of times where it's like, like enough is enough. Like, when am I going to stop? When am I going to take a break? Like, am I always going to be doing this? Well, for me, like, it wasn't really a question. It was like, yeah, I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to keep going. I got more stuff to do. And I feel like maybe from an outside perspective, potentially, there could have been times where it's like, don't, like, why don't you just take a break? Like, it's not that serious all the time. Like, learn how to take a joke or relax or blah 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 whatever. But then when everything started shifting and changing and happening, my foundation was solid enough that it didn't shake. It didn't sway. There was no worry or concern. In fact, the happening itself strengthened my foundation instead of it causing it to fall apart. And like, it's not that I don't enjoy the moment, right? I've been playing a lot of video games and watching a lot of anime. I've been catching up on a lot of the things that the worsening of the condition of my eyes was sort of taken from me. And there are moments and opportunities where I really appreciate the sweetness of who or of what the person that I am allows to happen. And again, it's the most noticeable, it's the most observable in the space of challenge or in the space of conflict. But in the stability of my foundation, it comes with it has a sweetness of its own. And it's like, wow, like that could have really taken me out. Like I could have, like, that could have taken a dark turn. Like, this could have put me, like, I could be depressed right now. Like, old Patrick probably would be extremely depressed right now. But current Patrick is like, wait. And it does make me really grateful. And it does make me really appreciative honestly, of myself. And a part of me is like, wow, that sounds a little egotistical. But the greater part of me is like, no, I should be proud of myself because I've been doing a lot since November 2018. It has been a very tireless, not tireless. It's been a very consistent path for me. I'm always working on something new. I'm always healing something new. And honestly, the more I do it, the easier it gets. It's not as much of a burden or a hassle. It's not as hard of a work as it was in the past. It's actually extremely easy now because now it's like, well, I could do this, or my alternative would be like to keep feeling something that I don't want to feel, or to go back and it's like, yeah, no. And again, a lessening of the conditionality of my love. First of all, like it's proven to me that I'm actually like capable of love. What? And like I knew I was, but with all of the little like quirks that I guess I had, that I mean, I'm human. I'm never going to be perfect, but I'm sort of perfect as is in the moment. And then in the next moment, as I continue to grow, I'll be perfect in that moment. It's an expanded capacity, an increased awareness that, again, like with my friend, like things would be resolved within minutes instead of hours or days. And then after the resolution, it opens up the space for conversation. Would I prefer to just have the conversation and not need the conflict to then resolve? Yeah, but different people operate differently, and we're like as we go through things, we're not necessarily going to be our 100% like if I wasn't going through anything self. And maybe that's something again, it's something that I had to learn to accept within myself what a month ago, that sometimes I didn't take the full context of what I was going through into consideration when I would look at what I could have possibly attained or achieved. And because I guess I extend that kindness to myself, I can extend it. I did extend it to my buddy. It's like, like I know you're stressed and you're going through a lot. Could you have just said this the first time? Yeah. But it's fine. And like I haven't gotten where I am on like no part to myself, like through no effort on my own behalf. So yeah, I am the most grateful and appreciative of self, especially to the self that was so close to just like giving up, that somehow found the strength to finally say enough is enough. And then here I am now, right? Almost, well, like 2.5 years later. It was November 2018 when I started, but January 2019 when I was extremely like intent and focused, and like from this moment on everything is getting resolved. If something pops up, it's like whack-a-mole. As soon as the mole pop up, bam. If you hesitate, it's going to go back underground and then it's just going to pop up somewhere else. Anyway, it's been my journey of progress. And it's not that I don't appreciate the sweetness. Sometimes I am a little bit like, wow, like if you catch me like last July, maybe last like end of July, August, I was like, well, I've been kind of fiery for a minute. Like, when am I gonna cool back down? I'd love for some water to come back in my chart. It's like I experienced a little bit of fire, and now that's all I know. Um, and for every time, for every season, it is that opportunity, right? I sort of had to master the element of fire more than just being exposed to it and be like, all right, now I want to put it all together with everything. Sometimes we do have to dedicate a little more time, energy, or effort to the mastering, the unfolding of something before we can just use it in the ways that we need to when we need to. And so if other things need to take a back seat as your priorities shift, that's okay. It's fine. Life happens, right? And for those who live life, you understand that life happens. We can't be in everyone's pocket 24/7 all the time. We all have our own lives and our own things that we go through. And I remember I was talking to my mom one day about something or somebody, and I was like, if someone needs time to go through something, I'm going to give them that time. And she was like, "Oh, well, like, if you give them too much time, I wouldn't expect to like that friendship to still be there." And I was like, I have a lot of friends who it's the understanding, like, hey, like, sorry, I kind of sort of dropped off the face of the earth for a minute. I was going through something and I needed some time. And we understand that that's a thing that we need to do sometimes. Life happens. We're all living life. It's like, okay, that's fine. Like, hey, what's up? Like, how are you? Oh my gosh, like, what are you up to? Like, you want to do something? Want to play something? Want to watch something? Want to do something? It's like, yeah, girl, I would love to. And like the friendships that I have like that are some of the ones that I treasure and value the most, as I'm sure that those people would agree. Like when you need that time, it's so validating, I guess, to have people that will allot you that time and who won't hold it against you or try to weaponize it against you, or who won't just like walk away because you needed to handle your own life for a second. And I guess journeys are much of the same. But, again, with this temperance, it's about the actual work that we do. With progress, it's about the actual work that is done. Neither one of these cards, like divine timing, isn't just like, oh, I'll sit here and wait for things to just happen. It's like, well, things will just happen if you've done the work to make them happen. Yeah, sure. But if you're just waiting for something to happen with no effort put in on your part, then you may be sitting there waiting for a while. That's like stopping the car. It's like you're not going to get to your destination if you don't move either. We have to reach the end of one rope before we're granted a new sort of piece, before we're granted a new section. And then sometimes a lot of people apparently will be like, oh, I've already put in like this much work and I've already put in that much work. Like, how long is this journey? How long am I have to gonna keep putting in work for? And it's like, honestly, it reminds me of what my one of my teachers in high school used to say. She'd be like, the only two things you have to do are pay taxes and die. That's it. Because I would always be like, is this homework mandatory? Is this mandatory? Is this mandatory? I was that annoying, lazy, procrastinating kid. He was like, is this mandatory? And she was like, Patrick, the only two things you have to do are pay taxes and die. Nothing else you have to do. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. You can stay where you are. You can keep running the same circles. As long as you want to, you can continue to do that. And even if you don't want to, I guess it's like as long as you don't make any progress to get out of that, then you will continue to do that. And again, we've manifested an age of Aquarius where each individual in the collective comes into their own Christ consciousness. There is no savior that's going to come back. Apparently, saviors were a thing of the age of Pisces, and the collective manifested an age of Aquarius where we save ourselves. And we can guide and we can help other people, but we can't save anybody. There are people who are lifted out of their circumstances who may do better for a day or two or a month or 3 or a year, but then it's like they go back to what it was that they were in the first place. And it's like, because what needed to be done internally wasn't done. You can change the external circumstances, but if the internal is still the same, it's going to fall, it's going to like slide back down that scale. It's wherever you put the weight, that's what everything is going to gravitate towards. So, finally, the cards behind Temperance, because there's like 4 of them, is the Sun. So, again, we see the Sun and the Moon, but this time they're reversed. They have opposite sort of polarities here. The Sun, the Ace of Wands, the Master of Secrets, and the Seeker of Dreams. The Priestess of Dreams. Oh, this is Justice. This is 11. There's 1111 here. There's 1, 1, and 11. Ace of Wands, the Magician, Justice. Ace of Wands, the Master of Secrets, the Priestess of Dreams. In both of these cards, we see the dove and we see this break in the cosmic whatever that allows, like, the dove is that higher sort of spiritual perspective. We see the light pouring down from here. We see both the sun and the moon. So this could be like a sunlight and moonlight. Moonlight is just sunlight, but filtered through the moon. So I guess it's different, right? Because if you pass white light through a filter, you'll get a different color. And then we have this priestess of dreams who stands on her own foundation and reaches up to the heavens. It almost feels like these two are separate, but they are both masculine influences. And then these three sort of tell this story. I guess technically it would be like this, maybe. Would this be a better way to represent it? Yeah. And it's like these two are looking in the same direction. But there's a moment in the middle of increased vulnerability and of like, it's like as we turn, it's like a watch pot doesn't boil. I watched a lot of pots over the past few days, and I'm like, it's taking forever for these things to boil. What's going on? Hello, hello. Like, I know it doesn't take water this long to boil. And like you can see the same blue attire, but in the Ace of Wands, it's like she had to like pull the top off a little bit so her top could breathe. What it did was it exposed the heart. Because both of these come after. So we have this magician energy and this justice energy between the master of secrets and the priestess of dreams. The heart is what's most sort of noticeable in the master of secrets because it's like, no, the heart and this. See, what's coming down from above and the heart space, they're resonating in the same frequency. But with this Ace of Wands and the vulnerability here, the integration of spirit here, like something had to transpire to really get these two here. And it's reminding me of in the Temperance card when it was talking about, because with the Ace of Wands, it's like a new passion, a new desire, something that we want to accomplish or achieve. But in Temperance, it's like we don't do that at the expense of other people. You can, a lot of people do. But you can't come from your heart space and do things at the expense of other people. And without the heart, that's like the most important tool that we're missing. It's the most important tool that humanity's been missing for a while. It's allowed people to do some pretty dark stuff, some pretty atrocious stuff, and to not even care. And a lot of people may not actively be hateful and spiteful, but the upper majority of people are like complicit and complacent. They don't care. It's not their problem. They're not as moved. They're separated from it. They don't have to worry about it. It's not their experience. So why would they? It's like, you turn on the news or you watch a movie to feel bad, and then you go home and you go back to your life where it doesn't bother you, it doesn't affect you, and you move on. And a lot of people can be that way, especially if you have your own problems and your own life to worry about. Well, newsflash, we all have our own life to worry about, but y'all's manifest in a 144 on neglect. Y'all's manifest in this age of Aquarius where people are supposed to care about people. So You're gonna have to care about people now. Like, hello? It's not my reality, it's not my experience, it's not my problem. Those aren't, like, they were never really viable, but they're even less so now, coming into the space that we've been manifesting. Oh my gosh. This is the jewel of the lotus. And it's this lady. It's this Ace of Wands. These colors are on Mayat too. The Justice card. I guess the reds are masculines, the blues are feminines, and the whites are the spaces where they meet. The white is light. It's unpolarized light. So it's both feminine and masculine in some way. Or it's a characteristic that's shared by both feminine and masculine. It's indifferentiable, maybe is the word that I want. Let's move on to the last one because this, I did not anticipate this being this long. So we have the Lord of Swords and the Hanged Man, with the Lord of Pentacles, of course, at the bottom. So let's read this Lord of Swords. In the Lord of Swords, both of these look like full moons, and then the thing at the top looks like a sun. And then there's this thing. There's almost a little like Aries. You see that little Aries glyph in there a little bit? There's some Omega there. Aries is the alpha, it's the beginning. Omega is the ending. So something in this is a little bit of an alpha and Omega energy. And that's why the Hangman is here, I guess. Now, the Wheel of Fortune could just as easily be here. So we have this continual sort of like alpha, omega cycles continuously moving and turning and turning. But with this stuck in the Hangman position, it leaves us in that Aries alpha beginning, or it sticks us there. And this is interesting because, again, this is the sun. The sun is the great illuminator. This is how internally our internal condition filters down into the sun and creates this external expansion. Or it doesn't create the external expansion. The nature of the sun expands internally. So we get whatever's inside. Now, the Lord of Swords, King of Swords energy will have properly done all of that internal stuff so that what he manifests outside is something that he wants. It's something that it has a sort of life, vitality, vibrancy to it. But I looked at this card before I started recording. Oh, there was like this internal external energy, but here it's like his eyes are closed and then this reversed Aries. I mean, it's not just Aries, but I'll read it. It might be is on his third eye, and it's like these are his eyes. That's his third eye in a greater cosmic sense. This is that connection beyond the veil, right? It's like we can't necessarily fit all of the essence of who we are into these bodies, and that's why when we dream we connect to the greater part of ourselves, or to the part of ourselves that's connected to the greater everything. This is a mental fortitude. It's like the Four of Swords in that way that it's able to find peace and balance within self, and because of that it's like it's able to maintain this connection. Every card so far has talked about the need to balance intellection, or the intellectual with the intuitive. This is a balanced intellectual and intuitive in a way that gives greater understanding, greater perspective, greater knowledge, awareness, or knowing. In a way, that the Lord of Swords is able to comprehend and understand. Now, it may take some time for his brain to sort of put it together, right? But eventually he will understand. It's not, and it's like processing downloads in real time. It's like processing information in real time. Here we go. The Lord of Swords. Oof, I'm gonna do this again. Hopefully my leg don't get a little, I'm just getting a little cramps up. I ain't had much water yet today. The Lord of Swords is in attunement with what is in attunement with what is. He is wise and just. He is consulted as an intermediary between warring disputes. His ability to see clarity beneath deceitful plots allows him to clear up false claims, expose cheaters, and bring justice to swiftly settle the most confusing of situations. He banishes chaos and is firm with law and order. His justice is that of the principle of Mayat, justice that flows in all directions among his subjects, his people and land, and the plants and animals upon it. He is a truly enlightened ruler. He is often seen as stern by those who seek to bend his hand, yet he cannot be corrupted. His intelligence sees clarity where confusion clouds. He defines truth. He is a lawyer, a writer, a judge, and a champion of environmental issues. His motto is justice for all beings and in all places. His abilities may cause him to have an overly inflated opinion of himself. Thus, he can easily influence others to believe him infallible, generating for himself a host of followers who are under the impression that he is perfect in all things. While he is intelligent, his ego is his weakness and may run away with him. This reminds me of the three judges of the underworld. I think there's a playlist: Minos, Rhadamanthus, and Aeacus. It reminds me almost the most of Rhadamanthus because it talked about his unwavering integrity despite the challenges that he faced in life. Challenges that an Aeacus would have taken advantage of to do all kinds of things. No, not Aeacus, Minos. That Minos, like Rhadamanthus and Minos were brothers. Rhadamanthus drew the short end of the stick and was able to remain the most integritous. Is that a word? Now, under that is the Lord of Pentacles, which can part the veil with his blue flame of truth. And there is a little bit of the energy of the clock on fire echoed. It's like, here's the clock on fire, there's this thing with all the fire, there's the wolf and the moon, and here are these two moons, but there are also two guardians, the mermaid and the wolf in this card. There's this red flame here, and then a blue flame in the Lord of Pentacles. Now, the red flame presented by the nuns was, it was an energy that was like, I'll read it. And the Lord of Pentacles, there's a spirit. So the flames upon the conventional religious nuns represent the fires of new understanding from ancestral teaching. Oh no, their flames are blue too. They're not red. They have these smaller blue flames. He's a larger blue flame. These red flames, I feel like the red flames are, it's like light. Blue is communication, right? Red, orange, yellow, these are all like lower chakral energies. Again, that's the great illuminator. That's how we experience the world around us through the five senses, right? Through the more tangible and tactile senses, less intuitive senses, less of the beyond senses. This card, when I was reminding me, when I was reading it, it reminded me of, I think it's the King of Sword or the King of Spades, and this is the Lord of Swords, so that fits. Actually, it might have been the King of Hearts, but it's the wise king who settles an impossible dispute. Um, it was what a decision that once made cannot be undone. A wise king who settles an impossible dispute, and I forget the last message in that. See, there is a need here to sort of be like self-contained. It's understanding that not necessarily all truths are global truths. That there are some truths that are more relative or more specific to a certain person, their experience, whatever, right? It's like you can say that the world works a certain type of way or that people are a certain way, but if you go somewhere else and you experience a different sort of dynamic, then it puts like your truth in context. It's like, okay, well, not everyone is like that. But a lot of times, because as humans, we like to feel like we know, what we'll do is we'll consider a lot of things to be outliers or we'll invalidate it. It's like, oh, well, that's a special case. That's an exception to the rule. But you only have to prove something to be false one time. You only need one data point, one experience to know that something isn't universal. Like this is not globally and universally true. If it were so, then this could not be, and this is. So, is your ego going to put you in a place of needing to feel like you know something? Or are you going to allow for this to be relative? Will you allow for it to be expanded? And it reminds me of, again, that message. I don't know what card it was in, but it was like, if all of your wisdom isn't leading you towards progress and isn't leading you towards healing, then abandon that wisdom. A lot of times we hold on to things that we know, but we don't know. That's what we need to believe to be safe or to make sense of the world or to know how to navigate. But it isn't necessarily true. If it were true, it would be giving you something. It would be doing something for you. It would be moving you somewhere. But there is a difference here because the Hanged Man is here, and with both the Lord of Swords and the Lord of Pentacles here, especially with the Lord of Pentacles holding the blue flame of truth, with the Lord of Pentacles being the one who establishes things for other people, it characterizes this. Just like when the Master of Secrets came out at the top, and it was like, well, the Master of Secrets can also manipulate. The magician, it can also manipulate, it can also take advantage of people. But under that, it was like the Ace of Cups and the Two of Cups. The cards around it speak to its character. And so, could this energy be manipulative? Yeah, sure. But we see it as one that is more just, one that is more upright, one that is more inclusive. And it's like it's creating a more globally harmonized space. And then we have this hangman here. Oh, look, we have the submerged hangman. And then we have the blues and the reds in these cards. And we sort of see those colors. Internally, it's the red. Externally, it's more the blue. And then there's the fish of wisdom. So this is balanced in some way, or it's being balanced in some way. And when I was saying that, like, if your wisdom isn't moving you forward, then abandon it. This hangman is here to say that, like, progress progress happens in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different dimensions, right? You may not have external progress, but if there's internal progress, then you don't need to abandon that, right? This isn't progress in the way that we traditionally know progress. This isn't progress in a way that a capitalistic system will continue its ways. This is internal, it's more you. And you know whether or not your wisdom and your knowledge is moving you forward through life or whether it's keeping you running the same circles or not. You would be able to discern for yourself whether that's the case. If you keep hitting the same spots and you keep making the same choices and decisions, then where is that wisdom and where is that knowing getting you? What is it doing for you? Is it truly wisdom and knowing, or is it what you need to believe to make some sense out of the world, to feel like you know something? And for all of that knowing, is it benefiting you at all? Is it growing you at all? Is it healing you at all? Or is it keeping you stuck where you were? And ultimately, at the end of the day, you have to want something enough to move. Critical time is now. Ooh, don't go in reverse. Who trying to go in reverse? And then the Dreamer of Cups and the Spirit of Wands is below that. But I already like those three cards right at the bottom of the deck. So let's get a final card now. A final card now, please. A final card now. Final card now. Two of Cups and the Dreamer of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. That dark Cancerian energy. That could be Dark Moon Lilith. That's the side of the moon that we don't see. The dark side of the moon. Ooh, Two of Cups and the Dream Protector. Oh, come on. Why don't y'all want to shuffle? Hello. Can I get a full shuffle? Thank you. Gotta shuffle it in pods. Oh, okay. So I'll give this 3, 2, 1. Final shuffle. Oop, that almost came out. I gotta split this deck in half because that's how it sits in the box. What's in the box? Is this here? No, well, no, it's here. So on this half, we've got the Seven of Wands and the Three of Swords. The Seven of Wands and the Three of Swords at the bottom, this is an energy of like victory at what cost, right? Because we see that like there's all this raging fire outside, but there's this little sort of space inside, but he's chained. The chains aren't actually connected, which is interesting. But like this is us when we build or when we make a home in the darkness, when we claim victory in a space that doesn't really benefit us, or it keeps us chained to our past, it keeps us chained to our heartbreak in a certain way, like we believe what we believe so that we don't get hurt again. But what you're doing is you're establishing a kingdom basically in darkness. You're establishing a kingdom in pain. You're establishing a kingdom in misery. And if that's something that you're comfortable being in, or if that's something that you want, then that's fine. But if it isn't something that you want, you're going to have to be open to, I don't know, moving beyond it, letting it go. It's what you want. But more than what you want, it's what you're willing to do for what you want. Because we have free will, we have free choice, but we also, sometimes got to take action. Bottom of the deck over here is this Dreamer of Cups, who was at the bottom of the deck, or who was under all of those other cards. I want to read it. The top is the Eight of Swords. It feels like there's something that lies beneath the surface. With the Dreamer of Cups and this Eight of Swords, we see the water that's trying to, it's like there's this element of water that it feels like this internal being is trying to get to the one on top, but things are so thick that it can't. Or maybe like you've shut and locked yourself away and there's someone trying to like, or something or spirit trying to break you out of it. And that's what this spirit or dreamer, that's what the Dreamer of Cups is. It's like the Dreamer of Cups is trying to connect to you in dreams, or trying to connect to you through music, or trying to connect to you through movies or whatever media. It's trying to give you a vision of what your life could be outside of this, like, this prison that you've crafted for yourself to keep yourself safe. And it's reminding me of Muriel, the angel of Cancer. It's like as we grow, it's important that we protect ourselves, but also as important is our need to be vulnerable, and our need to be open, and our need to genuinely and authentically connect. And it is a little bit of a interesting duality of sorts, or a little bit of a paradox of sorts. Like, how can you protect yourself but be vulnerable and open at the same time? It's like healthy boundaries. Emphasis on healthy. Sometimes we have boundaries and they're not healthy. If your boundaries are so iron tight that it prevents you from genuinely and authentically connecting to someone and experiencing connection or community, then it's probably unhealthy. It's too restrictive. Healthy boundaries, it's that sweet spot. I love this deck. But also, ooh, oh, it's only 12 here. Okay. I got an appointment today. So can't be here for too long. But that's what I got. A lot of this was kind of sort of me in the beginning, and then it got, I guess, a little general. Um, Also, like, I do these, and I'm like, does that, like, is this me? And I'm like, no, this ain't me. But I do. I think it's good to question and to ask ourselves, or to be aware. So I hope you're having the experience that you wish to have, in word, thought, deed, and action, even though deeds are actions. And you're probably having the experience that your words, thoughts, and deeds align for you. So if you don't like it, or if there's something in there that you wish were different, then you may need to adjust somewhere. Either adjust your spoken word, adjust your thoughts, or adjust your actions. Because again, I feel like a lot of times it's less about being unaligned and it's more about being misaligned. Like, what are you actually aligning to? And the thing with like that Lord of Swords energy is that, again, like, it can see beneath the surface. It can see through deception. It can see through the fog. It can see through confusion and get clarity. Sometimes we deceive and we trick ourselves. Like, shout out again to Amanda from Adam Cara Messages, in her video where she talked about, I think it was false positivity. And she was like, we say these things like, oh, I'm doing this, like, I'm taking my me time, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. But our energy, our attitude, what we're doing when we're actually in those spaces that are for us, that are for healing, like, we may be speaking one thing, but we don't believe it really. Or we're not putting any action towards like grounding it and manifesting it and making it real. Like, there's this disconnect, there's this mismatch, there's a lack of harmony between the bodies, or between realities: spoken reality, thought reality, visualized reality, and actual reality, because there's something internally that is still needing to be sorted out. And maybe that's that hanged man that came with the Lord of Swords. It's like we can see it outside of ourselves, clear as day. But we may not necessarily have that same discerning eye when it comes to ourselves. And if you don't have that same discerning eye when it comes to yourself, you're probably not going to get all that you want in the way that you want it. And if your temperance is just waiting, maybe it's time to do something. I don't know. But I really do honestly and genuinely hope, though, that like we all do whatever we need to do to make ourselves better people, to make ourselves more healed and whole, so that when we interact with the world around us and when we interact with others, we can show up in a way that builds and that expands and that brings more abundance rather than one that competes and one that seeks to take in order to gain and weird stuff like that. I don't know.